Okay, so we're going to see how to install Java and IntelliJ and set some things up. The first thing we're going to want to do actually is start a terminal. I'm using VMware, hence the Mac stuff showing up there. And we're just typing Java, make sure we don't have Java installed. If you have Java installed, it'll depend on which version. We'll check that afterwards. So exit that. And I went to the adopt Open JDK. And I want to do the version 11. And we'll take the latest release. Hotspot or OpenJ9, don't really care. They're just different ways of how the virtual machine actually runs. Just want to run that. And of course you read the whole license agreement, although it's a GPL, I know the license agreement. We do want to add it to the path. That's how we'll make it sure it runs on the command line. Associate.jar, that's fine. That means if you have a jar file, which is a Java archive, basically a zip file of a bunch of Java binaries, class files, it'll run that. We want to set Java home, yes, that's useful. And we want to put in the registry keys. I do want to do that. And I do want to do that. So once it's installed, we'll start a terminal again. It's really important to exit the terminal and start a new one because any of the environment variables, the path and the JDK home and all that, their Java home that got set won't show up until you restart the terminal. So now we should start the command prompt, the terminal, type in Java. Awesome, and we should do Java, it's probably dash version. And we should see OpenJDK version 11.07. If you don't see that, if you see something earlier than 11, you should probably update. It's probably not going to be a problem, but it might be. If it's later, if it's 14, whatever, that's fine. We'll be using 11 or higher. I'm going to stick with 11. So now that Java is installed, we need to install an environment for actually coding with. Like I said, I'm going to use IntelliJ. And they've got they've got a bunch of IDEs here. So IntelliJ based IDEs, sure. Or we could have gone to languages. Right? Oh no, that's languages that they make, sorry. So we're interested in something that will do Java. Gives us these two choices, IntelliJ or IntelliJ EDU. Again, don't really care from that point of view. We can download it. There's Ultimate, there's Community. Just because we don't care about the profiling, we don't care about the enterprise stuff. Swagger is actually kind of cool, but we don't need it for this. Don't care about JavaScript, don't care about database, don't care about detecting duplicates. Well, it's kind of nice, but we don't need to worry about it. And I think I won't have to sign up for it. If you download this one, you can get it. It's free because you're students. You just have to register. So I'm going to download this one. I don't wish to subscribe. I do wish to download. Sorry, my microphone is falling a little bit. So those are right in my view. So it's going to take a little bit longer to download than the JDK. Another thing we're waiting for that. Another thing we're going to want to make use of is JUnit. JUnit, and we use JUnit 5. We don't have to download anything. It actually should come as part of IntelliJ. If you're using Eclipse or something, it'd be ways to install it for there too. So JUnit is kind of the, I think, the first of the foreparent of all of the XUnit testing tools that you'll see for various languages. So there'd be like something like a C# unit or a JavaScript unit or things like that. They're basically based, similar API based on, inspired by JUnit. Yep, I don't need that. I do need to go back to this. So we're going to make use of JUnit, so we may as well make sure we get that set up. There's one other thing that we're going to use with that, which is called Hamcrest. Sometimes the JUnit tests are a little odd to read. Hamcrest is just a library that makes it a little easier to understand the code. So there's documentation getting started, all this kind of stuff. You can read that at your heart's content. You don't need to be an expert in using this. We will make use of it in the course, though. And we're almost there. There we go. And I'm just fine with the defaults for the most part. I don't care about a 32-bit launcher. I do want a 64-bit launcher. I have no idea if I wanted to add that to the path. Probably not. Sure, why not? And sure, we can grab the .java files. And we don't need a 32-bit runtime, I assume. So like I said before, I do not have any preference for whatever you choose to use. If you want to use Eclipse, you want to use NetBeans, you want to use IntelliJ, you want to use Visual Studio Code, it doesn't matter to me. I'm never going to know what you're using. Since I'm installing IntelliJ, I will use IntelliJ for my demonstration purposes. Normally I'll do that in the Mac, not Windows, but I figured Windows, I haven't installed Java on yet, so it'll be a nice clean install for you, and you're probably running Windows at home. So the tools do run on Mac and Linux as well, so anything I show here will work on any of those platforms. And that is, one of the major points of Java is that you have this idea of write once, run anywhere. So you write your code on one platform and you compile it down to the class files, and then the virtual machine on any system can take those class files and run them. You may just want to skip ahead in the video. I'm not going to edit it to make it go a little quicker for you, sadly. And we'll just finish it up. I should be able to find it and run it. You should always read these things. You can send the anonymous statistics or not. I don't generally really care, so I'm going to send them. Light mode, dark mode, your choice. Default plugins. You probably don't need any of these to do anything one way or the other. I don't care. They're generally speaking, it'll install too much, but it's not that much space. I generally don't care about any of these things, so just say start using it. And we're going to create a project. This stuff comes in really important that you remember how to do this. You may want to save this video so you can refer back to it later, because it's for some reason it doesn't seem, as far as I've found, it doesn't seem to set the projects up by default the way I'd like. So we're going to create a Java program. And we're not using any libraries because I guess we don't. No, don't know what the purpose of the library thing is. Hit next. I'm not going to create it from a template. And untitled for this one is fine. We call it test if you want. And I don't want to show the dips at startup. So it has a source directory, and I'm going to make 2 subdirectories in there. Sorry, just reading this thing down here. I will investigate that later. So I'm going to make new package. I'm going to make one called main, and I'm going to make another one called test. So this is the part where I'm saying that they don't set it up the way I would like it to be by default. So it's probably under file project structure. So basically whenever I create a new project, this is the pain I have to go through. So you should get used to doing it. I'm going to go into my modules, and I'm going to say that source is not a source. Might seem odd, but I'm going to say that main is a source, and I'm going to say that tests is tests. So I have my source directory. It's got 2 things underneath it. Test is where all my unit tests are going to go, and main is where all of my source code is going to go. So this is basically the root of the source code, and this is the root of the tests. So you do need to go through that every single time. And libraries. From Maven is good. Do org.hamcrest and search. And this can take a little while. And there we go. And we can go for probably Hamcrest 2.2. I will verify that because I seem to vaguely remember that there was something weird with Hamcrest. So I will double check that and send it out in an email as well. So I want that. And I'm okay with that. And I'm going to hit OK. And I'm going to go to my source, and there's main. And I'm just going to make a brand new Java class. Really simple. We'll make it a class. Sorry. I always call my class that has a main method in it. I generally call it main. In main, we'll have, if you type in psvm and hit tab, you'll get public static void main. Now I do a couple of things. You'll see me do all the time. I make my variables final all the time. And I don't call it args, I call it argv. You can call it Bob if you want. It really doesn't matter. Do not call it Bob. Call it args or argv. Argv is because I'm a C programmer a long time ago. And argv stands for argument vector. So that's how I was taught. But you know, it doesn't really matter. It's just a name. And we'll just do sout and tab, because it's system out println, and we'll do hello world. And we're also going to add one more method just for fun. So if something to test, public static void, actually we'll make it a string, get message, return hello world. And then we won't do system.println hello world. We will do get message. Don't do that. It's really a bad idea to call your call a method as a parameter to another method. So I always make temporary variables, and then we're going to print out the message. So this should print out hello world if I run it. And I will run it by adding a configuration. And it's just an application, and the main class is main. And I could pass in virtual machine arguments, I could pass in command line arguments. We may come back to that later on, so I'll refer you back to this video if we do. This is where you would put them in. Environment variables if I need them, all sorts of things. If we're going to be working with files, this is important because it tells you where to look for the files if you're not passing in the absolute directory. So now we should be able to run it. It'll compile it. Sometimes it's a really good idea to tell it to rebuild the project. The class files sometimes get confused, and the compiler gets confused, and it doesn't always recompile all the classes. So there we go. We've got our program running. It prints out hello world. Now we're going to make a test for this. So all we have to do is come in here, right mouse click, say maybe it's not there. Sorry. Generate. Sorry, it's in here. And what we want to do is generate a test. And we want to use JUnit 5. This is going to cause it to incorporate all the appropriate JUnit libraries for us. Main test is fine. We don't need to do parent classes, all that. And the test we want to do is on get message. And so it's very confused at this point in time. It hasn't added it to the class path, so it's just set up the source code, but it didn't add it. So if you come in and click on the JUnit, right, or not click on it, and you get this, just hover over it, it'll show up. Do more actions. We want to install JUnit 5.4, and it'll go off and do that for us. If it suggests something higher, then go ahead and use something higher. I always like to clean up the code. We will learn way more about the tests later on. So if you hit Alt-Enter, I'm going to guess, you can import the class. For Mac, it's Option-Enter. And now we're going to assert that main.get message is equal to hello world. Right, so what we're saying is that when the get message method is called, it should return hello world. Problem is that it doesn't know about these things, so that's pretty simple. Again, Alt Enter, and notice it's importing it from Hamcrest, and equals to, if I got that right. Oh, sorry, keyboard issues. Good grief. Did it again. There we go. Import. And again, it's a Hamcrest matcher thing. So there we go. So now what we can say is that we just want to run this test. And it will. Usually. There we go. It's a little slower than I'm expecting because of the emulation. Oh, so I screwed up in my, and this is the whole point of the test. I'm expecting that we return hello space world with an exclamation mark, capital H, capital W. Let's run that test again and see if I made a mistake with just the test. And I did not. So the test is correct. I want hello with a capital W. The test forms, I'm going to cover this in more depth, but later on. The test forms the specification. So the problem is that we don't have an exclamation mark and we don't have an uppercase W. So now I should be able to right mouse click on here, and I thought there was a way to do the test, but maybe not. Throw in the main test. And that's good. It's green. We're happy. So you should be able to now run your program, and it should print out hello world. You should be able to run the test using Hamcrest. If you've got that set up, you're good to go for the rest of the course. There may be one other library we might make use of later on for the testing, but other than that, that's it. So that's it for now. There will be another video soon.